And thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to share this with you guys. Um, so I'm just going to dig in to the next slide here. So a little bit about me is I hail from the great state of Tennessee. I have lived here for 18 years, so I consider myself now a true Memphian, even though I am from Texas. And, you know, as they say, you can take the girl out of Texas, but you can never take Texas out of the girl. So all my family is still in Texas, and we were just visiting about everything that's going on in that state, and they're all doing well. So that's really great. So yes, I have a degree in psychology, and I work in IT. I know that seems a little odd, but somehow it works. And I know a lot of people who have also traveled down that path of a psychology degree, and yet they work in technology. I am currently at FedEx. I just started there a few weeks ago, working as an Agile coach and a Scrum Master for their digital team, for the .com team. I have been previously with 2 other Fortune 300 companies, including a nonprofit, and I've also worked in manufacturing for a long time. And in my manufacturing days, we worked in a lot of Kanban manufacturing, so that was really exciting. That's actually how I got introduced to Agile, to the Agile world. So I am a mom of a college freshman and a high school sophomore and a crazy second grader who probably at any moment is going to come through this door right here. So if that happens, please forgive me. You can tell her no, but that just doesn't really matter. And then I love to sleep when I have the chance. Sleep is something that is very elusive to, you know, my world and to parents, I think, in general. So that's probably my favorite pastime. So this is a little bit about me and my brand new puppy, who I added her to the slides for this particular session because she just joined our family on Saturday. Her name is Shelby. And my fat cat, Sebastian, that's all he does is sleep and lay in the sun when he can. So keep going here. So how did I get here? So I was talking about this a few minutes ago of someone, you know, recommended to me when I was looking for my next step on the bus, or my next seat on the bus at one of the companies I was with. They said, you know, you really should try the Enneagram. I bet it would help you to do some discovery. And I thought, you know, I have a psychology background. I will try anything once. So let's give this a go. And I have to say I was a little skeptical at first because anything, you know, if anyone's done like the DISC profile, Myers-Briggs, you guys know that it's somebody's take on applying whatever they feel to you, right? And so I was a little skeptical about it, but I fell in love almost immediately with the Enneagram. And I've been going down this path for almost 4 years now of trying to apply what I've learned to helping teams grow. Because I work as an Agile coach, as a Scrum Master. So this is really important to me that I'm able to be the best that I can be for my teams. And then also just for leadership. So I do a lot of coaching with VPs, directors in the C-suite. So it really helps for me to be able to understand where people are coming from and to be able to coach effectively when I can, you know, gauge on what people's strengths are in their so if you read the intro for this, it's to know your vices and to know your strengths. This is kind of how I went just face first into this Enneagram situation. So if you want to look at what is the Enneagram. So the Enneagram has actually been around for centuries. It has it was something that was discovered and held secret for many, many years, once upon a time. And we'll dig into a little bit of the history later. But it's very scientific of how the Enneagram works. So there's a lot of science behind it and a lot of logic and reason. So it's not just someone's opinion. There's actually some science behind how it works and why it works. But unlike other personality assessments, this Enneagram tool is used for helping you to understand yourself. So for the self-awareness factors, your emotional IQ. So increasing yourself so that you can become the best person that you can be. Therefore, you also are, usually you're going to take someone along with you along that journey. So the goal is obviously self-awareness and learning how to connect with other people, whether it be your friends, your family, your coworker, your boss. The Enneagram has definitely got something that you will be able to take with you long-term. So one caveat here to this is the Enneagram is only going to be as successful as you want it to be. So if you get all this great, wonderful knowledge, but you don't apply it, obviously it's not going to work. So it's about your willingness to look inside yourself and to be honest, candid with yourself about where you are and trying to bring out the best, or hold back those pieces of us that we're just not so proud of. We all make mistakes. We all have issues. I'm definitely the first one to tell you that I'm not perfect by any means. I mess up all the time. And my kids will tell you that, especially the one who's in college, because she, they know it all. But if we are willing to own our reactivity to things and be candid with ourselves and with others about it, then this will only help you that much more. So the Enneagram, this is a really very all-encompassing diagram of what the Enneagram is and what it does. And we're going to dig into this about what all of this means. So it has a lot of words right now. So we're going to dig in a little bit on this about what is it, what are the numbers, what does the perfectionist mean? Like, that's kind of rude, right? It's not, I promise. But if you go visit websites about the Enneagram, everybody has their own take on it. This is just someone's take. So we'll talk about the triads, which you can see my mouse. Did you see here about what the triads are? We're going to dig into all of that. And then what do these arrows mean? What we're going to dig in 100% on this. But understanding where you fall on the Enneagram is kind of the first place. So I'm going to give you 2 websites. If you have already taken the Enneagram assessment, you may want to try one of these, because these are the 2 that I have found to be the most accurate that are free. So keyword is free. So these should be free. But click on, well, I don't know if you can click on them or not. Let me see if I can.
If you can please put in the chat, it would be great.
Yeah. Let me do that. Okay, so I've just shared both of these. My caveat on this is, if you don't mind there being a religious undertone, you can try this one in red. It does have a Christian undertone to it. So it's not going to be overly, the assessment itself will not be overly Christian. It's just when the results come out, it does have the Christian undertone to it. If you prefer not to have that, try this first one. But again, these are the 2 most accurate ones that I have found to date. And I'm gonna give us 10 minutes, I guess, or 5. We'll see how long it takes everybody to get through it.
Should we do it now, Aubrey?
Yeah,
We
if
have
you
to do now?
can, go ahead
Okay.
and take
Yeah.
them now. Can everybody access the sites?
Yeah, I can access the second one.
Okay, I see a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think if,
Yeah, I'm able to get to the second one. To the first one seems like it has to be through a mobile app or so.
yeah, first one looks like an app. Yeah.
Okay.
Even first question is tough.
So when you guys are done, just give me a thumbs up or and some indication that you're ready, and that way I'll know whenever we can move on.
Yeah, there are lots of questions, so it's gonna take a time a little bit. I'm only on 4th. I think Manjeet just put she's on 4 as well. Yeah.
No rushing. I mean, I think we've got plenty of time. And for those of you who are done, we'll talk about your results here in a few minutes. All right, Heather's done. Okay. I think most of us are done. So if you are looking at your results before digging into them, because at the very end, if you did that second link, at the very end, they give you some rapid fire questions. And for those of you who are still taking the assessment that are not done, please continue. You should be able to listen and still be fine. So the important part is to find out what your number is, because you're going to need that coming up here pretty quick. So at the very end, though, it gives you those rapid fire questions, and then it'll tell you your results and give you the percentages. So before you dig into what it tells you your results are, scroll down and look at those percentages at, your whatever your highest percentage was, because sometimes that there's you're so close to, like Russ was saying, he was an 8. And then I think the next highest was a 7, which that's a really, really big percentage gap. So Russ, if you feel like that is accurate for you, I would 100% agree based on the percentages. But if you are really, really close, like if it was a 90 and a 91, right, between an 8 and a 7, that's what those rapid fire questions are for. So if you, a 94 and a 97, did it tell you were the 94%, or did it tell you were the 97%?
Type 2, 94%, and then type 8, 97%.
Okay. What was its results? What did it tell you?
Is in the title of the type 2 and type 8.
Okay.
Are you asking for the title of what type it's given, or?
No, at the end, did it tell you you're a 2 or you're an 8 or
yeah,
whatever?
It told me that I was a 2, but 97% is a type 8 and type 2 is a 94%, but it's said on type 2.
Okay, so as we talk about what all these lines are, and and we kind of dig into what each of the numbers are, pay attention to those two in particular because they're related. So you'll, and this will make more sense in a few minutes, but pay attention to those two because it could probably go either way, right? But it, you know, your numbers are so close, and especially whoever just said that they have a 69% and a 69%. What did it say you were? Which one? Seven. I'm not surprised, Bridget. I'm not surprised on yours, type 7.
I'm the one who have 69, 69, and then a 57, then 49, 49, 46, 46, 43,
Yeah.
40, just all crazy close. And they said I'm the first 69.
The first one, okay. Especially with those two being both the same percentage, if you feel like you are more on one side than the other, consider that it could be the other. So pay attention to both those numbers. Can I ask what they were, those two?
Yeah, it's 5 and 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the funny thing is any of these tests I take, they're all very much quite very close for all of them. So
Yes.
for all the different portions. So I'm not surprised that that's the result I got.
At the very end of this, I'm going to talk to you guys about what my results are, and it might actually be very insightful for your results as well. So it probably is going to be very much the same.
Cool.
Okay, so is there anybody still going through the assessment, needs more time? Okay, let's continue and move on, and we'll dig into this a little bit more. Okay. So this is off of your Enneagram coach website that y'all probably just took the assessment on. You'll see again, we talked a few minutes ago that each website you go to, they have their own names for the numbers. You know, it's just their interpretation of it. So please don't get hung up if you're like, oh, I'm a 1 and they called me a perfectionist and I'm offended. Please don't get hung up on the numbers, because depending on what website you go to, it's going to have a different name. Just like the 2s here, they're called supportive advisors, whereas other websites call them the helpers. And every number has its positives and its negatives. So if we talk about one number and their positives and their negatives, don't think you're going to be immune. Everybody's going to have their set of things that we love to show people and things we wish we didn't. So just keep that in mind as we keep going through. So each number, as you can see, each number is tied to one of these other numbers. So as we come through here, did we have anybody? I'm going to pick on the 4s. Did we have anybody who was a 4? No.
We're all quite boring.
Yeah. So I see a couple of y'all are 7s. So we'll talk about the 7s here. So your 7s are, okay, 1, 4, and 7. Your 7s are your entertainers, okay? Your it says entertaining optimists because they tend to focus on the 7s tend to focus on all things fun, right? Your 7s are probably not going to spend a lot of time making decisions, which is not a bad thing. Don't hear what I say and think negative. Like, these are positives. They can very much be positives. Whereas your 5s, your investigative thinkers, they're probably going to be your paralysis by analysis or analysis. Did I say that right? Paralysis by analysis. They're probably going to be the ones who take 5 years to decide to go take that vacation, whereas the 7s are going to take 5 minutes. Does this make sense? Okay, so if we were to look at the 8s, your 8s here, it says challenger. So 8s can be challenging. They can be the challenger. But typically your generals in the army are going to be 8s. Your protectors are going to be 8s. They're going to be very dominating. They don't take long to make a executive decision. Whereas your 7s are like, everything is awesome, right? The world is my oyster. Like, let me at it, right? Your actors are typically 7s. Your generals are typically 8s because they don't take, it does not take much time for them to make, we're gonna go this direction, no questions asked, and do what I said, and please don't question me. Like, they're not gonna be jerks about it, typically, but they don't have a problem taking charge and just getting things done. You know what I'm saying? Where your 9s here are your peaceful mediators. Your 9s are like, your Mother Teresa's. Your very much, I just want everybody to be, I just want everyone to be, get along. Like, we're just trying to be here, and, you know, no fighting, please. And like, they're just in the middle, right? They're wanting, they get along with everybody. My grandmother is a 9, and she is, she can be one of the most boisterous, challenging people I've ever met. But typically her default is kindness and being that peaceful mediator. Like, she is the glue for our entire family. You know, and if she wasn't like that, yeah, I don't know if any of us would know what's going on with anybody else, because we all gravitate to her because she's the peacekeeper, you know. So 1s, it says moral perfectionist. Again, if this sounds negative to you, I'm sorry. I did not create the slide. But they are like, I'm trying to think of a global person. But on the handouts I have for each of these numbers, I have your examples. So it'll give you, you know, world people, as well as just general politicians and things like that, of people who have the same number as you. But Hillary Clinton is a 1. So these are your people who very, very convicted about their beliefs, and they don't mind to stand for their beliefs, but they are very convicted of it. I mean, to a fault. Very, very much. I have this is my faith, and this is my belief, and I'm not going to waver, period. Your 2s are your supportive advisors, your helpers, people who genuinely don't mind giving the shirt off their back, even if it means that they're going to be out in the cold, you know, with nothing. They would give everything they have to help somebody else. And I'm talking about, you know, their quality traits. So every number does have its negatives, so please keep that in mind. Your 3s are your successful achievers. These people are ones that are motivated by, I've got to meet my goal. I'm gonna do anything I can possibly to meet my goal. Does not matter what it takes for me to get there. I'm gonna meet my goal. I've got to achieve my whatever it may be. So your athletes, your Olympic athletes, a lot of athletes in general, are probably going to be 3s. And then 4s are your romantic individualists. So those guys are artists. A lot of artists tend to be 4s. If you lean on a highly creative side, you're going to have a lot of 4 in you. Adapt to anything, but you want to be seen for who you are. And you express who you are in what you do. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Theater, if you're an actor in theater, not so much an actor in like TV, but actors in theaters who are, physically putting themselves out every day, typically a 4. This makes sense. Any questions?
No.
Okay. All right, so when we talk about triads, so triads is, what that means is how we group these together, because each of these numbers fall into a triad. So you're gonna fall into the 8, 9, 1 is a triad, your 2, 3, 4 is a triad, and your 5, 6, 7 is a triad. So we're gonna talk about what the triads are and how all the numbers relate together now. All right, so the first triad is your, there we go, your relating triad. So if you look at a triad, if you see here, you have like a pendulum swing here, right? So the ones if this is your relating triad, you typically will, you use your gut, your body to I'm losing my word here, but to feel the anger. Anger is your fatal flaw here, but you act from the body. Okay, you act out of the gut is what that means. So where we talked about how ones are moral perfectionists, anger is the fatal flaw here. So anger is what can either be overly exuded, 8s, or completely repressed. 1s typically will completely regress their anger. 9s are just kind of in the middle. So if you look at this as a pendulum swing, you will see how the motivator here is relating to people, and what can be the negative is the anger when it's exuded. So 8s, they kind of have their anger on their sleeve. They have no problem expressing their anger and how they feel if they get angry, if they get mad. They do typically, they tend to react from the gut. So they're pretty much going to go with what their gut says. So if they're mad, they're going to let you know immediately. Okay, because that's their fatal flaw, is that anger aspect. So the relating to people, they love to relate to people, but that anger can tend to get in the way because it's going to just bubble out, right? 9s are going to be kind of right in the middle because they're the peacemakers. That's their thing. So they're just going to pretty much be right in the middle. They probably could overly let their anger out, but typically they're probably not going to. But they're not repressing it as the ones. The ones will typically repress it because, again, this is your perfectionist. The ones typically will hold everything in, and because they have their convictions, their beliefs of what everything should be and what it should look like and what it should do. They're going to walk that very fine line of what they believe, whereas 8s don't really care. They're just like, blah, I'm mad. Okay, cool, I'm done. 1s are just going to keep it in, and then it's going to explode. Make sense? So if we look over here at this triad, this is your feelings triad. Anyone who falls as a 2, 3, or 4, you're all up in your feels. I mean, it's a joke, but it's true. Let me go back. So here, if we look, we have their feelings triad. They react from, instead of up here where they react from the body, from the gut, Here, this triad, they react from the heart. So they're reacting out, their actions are based on their feelings, on where their heart is. Their fatal flaw is pride and shame. That's what gets them every time. So let's look at the 2s, 3s, and 4s. Again, the pendulum swing here once more. If 2s are those helpers, and they typically are the ones that wear their heart on their sleeve. So they're gonna, if they have a feeling, everybody's gonna know it. It could be a good feeling. It could be a not so good feeling, but everyone's gonna know about it. Does this make sense? Do I have any 2s? I think I had a 2, 1. All right. Heather is a 2. Does this correlate with you, Heather? Definitely, she says. So 3s are your achievers. 3s again are going to be kind of in the middle. They're going to react from the heart. They're still going to react from the heart, but their feelings may or may not overflow, right? They probably can have a good handle on it, but when the pride and the shame get to them, it gets to them just as bad as anybody else. Pride and shame, this is the fatal flaw, but this is also a motivator for the group, as well as anger. Anger is also for the ones, for that triad up there, the body gut triad. Anger is also going to be the motivator for them too. So 4s, you're going to tend to hold everything in, although you're very artistic and you're very like, you know, for the feelings, like you probably have a lot of feelings, but you might see that you probably expect other people to know how you feel and not have to show how you feel. And then once you have to show how you feel, it just automatically explodes. Make sense? All right, so we had some 7s in this group. So 7s, I'm going to ask if you can help me to know if this is accurate or not. So this is the doing triad. So these they're motivated by doing, and motivated by doing can be just like with the relating and with the feeling. It doesn't mean that you're doing, like you're physically going out and doing things. You may be terrified of going out and doing things. 5s are going to be a little scared, not scared of things, but you're so ingrained. You're in the investigative thinkers. A lot of our IT folk tend to fall into the 5 category if they're a true engineer, my brain is creating. My brain is all about doing this all day long. I just want to live and game all day long. That's all I do. Code and game. But the investigative thinkers are the ones that they can tend to, as we'll talk about this in a little bit, they can tend to be so engrossed in what they're doing that they just don't think and see anything else. If you can isolate yourself super, super fast if you're a 5. 6s are it says here loyal guardian, but they're also known as the loyal skeptics. So if you're a 6, you might have heard someone in the past say, you're so skeptical. Like, why are you such a skeptic? My husband's a 6, and he 100% falls into this. 100%. Fear, again, fear is your fatal flaw here. So it's a motivator as well. So while doing is what, you know, people are motivated by, truly motivated by, fear is going to be that fatal flaw that can cripple you. Just like pride and shame cripples that triad, the feelings triad. Anger can cripple that body triad. Fear can cripple this triad, 5, 6s, and 7s if they allow it to. All right. So again, on our pendulum swing. So here, your 7s are your entertaining optimists. We talked about how 7s have no problem going out and making a trip, and we're going to go do this. We're going to go to forever, right? 5-second decision. Whereas 5s are probably going to think about this and then think about it some more and then think about it some more. And they might take that trip in like 5 years. Okay. Heather is a travel agent, just in case anyone wants to know. She can help you get a trip together. All right, so we talked about, I told you I would explain these lines to you. So what these lines mean is your integration and your disintegration. So the green, if I'm a 3, the green space here is, the green line is when I'm in a good headspace. If I'm feeling great, you know, again, everything is awesome, then I'm gonna tend to pull the good qualities of a 6 over to my number. And when I'm in a bad headspace, if I'm not having a good day and I'm not operating in a good, out of a good head and heart space, I'm gonna pull the bad qualities of a 9 over. So just so you know, some bad qualities of a 9 are to be very lazy and not care. So that, as you can imagine, for a 3, that is completely detrimental, because they are the achievers, which are always trying to achieve their next goal and, you know, please people by achieving. So if you start to pull these negative qualities in from a 9, because you're in a bad headspace, that could be truly detrimental to your personal well-being if you're not, you know, just really sound in who you are. So here for the 4s, when they are in a good headspace, when they're operating out of that good feeling, good body area, they're going to pull those good qualities of a 1 into their world. They're going to pull those good qualities in on top of all their amazing 4 qualities. When they're operating out of a bad headspace, they will tend to pull the negative qualities of a 2. Negative qualities of a 2 would include manipulation, being, you know, this very selfish, like, what about me type of situation, resentment. Those are some negative qualities of a 2. So does this make sense of what these lines mean? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When we're talking about wings, so wings are a little bit controversial in the Enneagram world. It depends on what book you read as to what your opinion is. My opinion on wings is that if you are like Heather said earlier, she's a 2, wing 7. I believe that's what she wrote. I firmly believe you can be any number and have a wing of any number. But there are some people that really believe that you can only wing on your relating number right next to you. So that the 1s can only wing 9 or wing 2. And the 8s can only wing 9 or wing 7. So it depends on what book you read. But I've taught this a lot, and I have met a lot of people in my day. And I firmly believe that you can wing any number that on the Enneagram, no matter what your number is. Okay, there's two basic schools of thought there. And I believe, just so if you're wondering, I do believe that your wing is your 2nd highest number. All right, so we're a little crunched on time, right? So I'm going to show you this slide here, but we were going to try to do a breakout right quick, but I think we're going to skip the breakout. But if you do want to, if you're at your desk or at home or whatever, and have a really nice glass of wine, I'm really jealous because it's my midday. So if you want to write down a couple of your favorite things about your number and where you want to grow. If you want to do that really quickly, or write down, something that you're not so sure about and that you want to investigate later, write those notes down so that we can talk about it at the end, because I've got about 15 more minutes of content, and then we can come to this in a second. Is that okay? All right, take a quick second and do that. All right, so we're gonna dig in quickly to the negative side of the numbers, okay? I'm gonna say, for those of you who are leaders in your areas, managers, directors, whatever leader looks like to you, this is an amazing exercise to go through with your teams. The one caveat I am going to say for leaders is with great power comes great responsibility. So you will learn a ridiculous amount of information of your team members, which is wonderful, right? How could that be negative? You have to use that information wisely. So if you learn that someone loves to work, loves to work, like the achievers, all they want to do is please people. They want to please people by their achievements. If you learn that you have a 3 on your team, you have to be very careful to not take advantage of them negatively. It's just like, what the guy said on Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. It was Uncle Ben that said that in that movie. Use this information wisely to get the positives out of your people, but without creating a negative in their life. So we as leaders have to make sure we take this information to heart very well. So here, conversely, we have to also make sure we don't plug people, pick them, just stick them with the fork and agitate, because that obviously is going to backfire on you quickly. All right, so here we're talking about vices. So vices, every number has a negative to it. As you can see, 8s, if they stay in a negative headspace and stay in that negative world, authoritarianism and confrontations are going to become their norm, which is very, very scary for an 8, because we've seen what that can do in society. Peacemakers. So if they stay in that negative headspace for too long, they neglect and have a tremendous amount of passivity. And as we talked about a few minutes ago, how 3s, when they're in a negative headspace, they tend to pull those negative qualities of the 9s over to them. If that happens, that's just bad on top of bad, compounding. It can be very, very dangerous for those 3s. So 1s, every website has different names. 1s, they can micromanage and be extremely critical when they stay in a negative headspace. So it's really, really important that we make sure we protect ourselves, no matter what our number is, that we don't allow ourselves to stay in those negative headspaces. Recognize what your vices are and your triggers, and not allow it to take you to that negative headspace and stay there. So here we're talking about the triggers. So 4s, a trigger for a 4 can be, don't be crude or rude to me, and don't tell me to just get over it, because I'm not going to. And don't be fake to my face. So those are triggers for 4s. So if I was a 4, I would want to make sure that if this these things were to happen to me, that's a trigger for me, and I'm going to choose to not allow this. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go to that negative headspace. I'm going to choose to stay on my positive side. So recognizing your triggers, recognizing your vices, where it takes you, and then, no, I'm going to choose to stay focused on the positive, and I'm going to stay going in this direction. I'm not going to allow this into my life. So for twos, for those supportive advisors or the helpers, don't take me for granted. That's a trigger, right? And don't be cold or indifferent, and don't leave me out. Those are my triggers. So one thing, if I was a manager of someone who was a 2, I would want to look at this and be like, okay, so now I know that if I leave her out or him out, Heather, I'm still on you as the 2 example. If I leave her out, that's really going to make her upset, and that's really going to send her in a negative headspace. So as a manager, I'm going to choose to recognize these things in my employees, and okay, well, let's make sure I know for my 7s, don't be clingy or needy, and don't ask me to do tedious things. And I'm going to know if I micromanage, Aaron, I think Aaron was a 7 too, right?
Yeah, I was 7 too. Yeah.
Yeah. If I do that, if I micromanage you guys, I know that you're going to get ticked, right? It's going to send you in a negative space quick. So I'm going to choose to recognize this and do everything I can as a manager to be kind in those regards. Make sense? What motivates our people, right? So this is a really fun slide. So as we see for the 5s, knowledge, data, learning, education, these are all motivators. These are all things that bring you to your positive headspace. For 2s, love and connection in relationships. Positives, these are all your positives that motivate you, that bring you into the green, if you will, right? Bring you into the positive. So 8s, I know it sounds weird, but challenges and control, power, authority, justice. So just seeing justice done appropriately, kind authority, probably should have a little caveat on that. And having the proper challenges, those are things that motivate the 8s. For 6s, if we have any 6s, safety and security, these are amazing motivators. So your vices and virtue by the triad. So the if we were to look at our triads here, you're going to tend to see the they're very similar. They're all extremely similar within the triad. So the jealousy, vanity, pride, this is all forms of pride. On the relating triad, it says lust, but please don't look at that as a weird negative. But the comfort and sloth, we talked about that earlier. So, just not really caring at all. And then the anger, those vices, these are things that are extreme. They can be extremely similar when you lump them all together, but they're all out of the body, if you notice. So your feelings triad, these are all their feelings. Your doing your head triad, the conceit, the fear, the greed. Again, these are, in your head, these are head spaces as well, right? I don't know if this makes sense, if I'm saying this correctly, if this makes sense, but you do tend to find your triads are going to be plagued by the same things for vices. Well, and virtues. So each number has virtues. Don't let me forget that. That is not should not be missed. All right, so I'm gonna get to the wrap up here pretty quick. So what does this mean for me? How does this help me? So learning what motivates you, learning what motivates those around you, what your triggers are, and then being able to leverage this when you're working with others. So again, recognizing your triggers, recognizing your motivators, and if you know what someone else's number is, so typically I will go through this deck super in depth whenever I do team assessments, and deliver this to a group of people, a department of people, if you will, and we will talk about each other individually and talk about how it relates to each other. So kind of what we did with all the numbers, but we will go in depth with each person. So whenever you are able to know, like if Heather knows that Megan is, whatever number she is, and Megan knows that Heather is a 2, well, they're going to be able to work with each other so much better by having that emotional IQ of, I know what her triggers are, and I'm going to try not to do that. I know what her virtues are, and I'm going to do everything I can to leverage that for a positive situation. So it's using the knowledge that you have for the greater good of the whole. The science is real. So I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to dig too much into the science, but I'm happy to do that offline with you guys if y'all are interested. Again, I do have websites that go through everything of where I found this information, where I've studied this information, but the science is real. It's all behind the law, behind the 9, the law of 3s, the law of 7s. The integrations and disintegrations are fascinating, but it can be overwhelming, which is why I'm not going to dig too much into it right now, because it would be another 30-minute conversation. Again, this is the science breakdown. I can go through this with you offline if you would like. Just reach out to me. And okay, are all personality assessments related? So this is something I get asked pretty frequently whenever I'm going through this. I'm a true believer, as this says, I'm a true believer that these are tied together and that you're going to find some consistencies in your results if you take them when you're in a good headspace. If you are not in a good headspace when you take these, you can, just like any test, you can trick it, right? You can make it give you the results you're wanting. So how accurate is this assessment? So I told somebody that you would probably see some correlations in our results. So if you look right here, let me find my mouse. Here we go. If you look right here, I took the DISC assessment several years ago, probably seven years ago. And I landed right here in my assessment. So typically when you take the DISC profile, people usually fall on the outskirts of the line, somewhere around the edge. I took it with a team of 25 people in a leadership development class. And I was the only person who landed right smack in the middle of the assessment, which my instructor found really odd. She found really odd that I was the only one who was not on the outskirts of that line. And as they sent the profiles off to DISC, to the actual company, had them analyzed and sent back. And it said that because I fall so closely inside the squares there, that I can easily convert to any letter. I can easily be a D when I need to. I can easily be a C when I need to, or an S, but I tend to fall into the I category, which does make a lot of sense for my assessment, which when I took the Enneagram, I was extremely high on several numbers, very closely together. Like, I can't remember who it was that said that earlier, but whoever it was, I felt extremely close, like you did. So I was an I, which you can see here, what they tend to do, how they tend to be. It's not all positive, okay? But if you look on the Myers-Briggs, when I started doing some research, I was like, well, where did the I's fall on the Myers-Briggs? Because when I take the Myers-Briggs, depending on how I feel that day, is I can be anything, you know? I could be an EN, I could be an ES, I can even be an IS. And if you look up here at the top, an ISTP, ISFP, I can even fall into that too. And I always wondered why. Why is the Myers-Briggs so different? So whenever I started digging into that more, I started looking at how 2s tend to be extremely extroverted, and they tend to have these Myers-Briggs results. The common thread is the EF, which I would either be an ISFP or an ESFP or an ENFP. Those are the 3 that I took, actually. So if you look at that, when I took my Enneagram assessment, I was a 2. And I have found on all my correlations and all my studies on this, that is pretty darn accurate. So everyone is an expert in the Enneagram. You have about 5 or 6 different websites that claim to be the end all be all on the Enneagram. I find them all to be helpful in different ways. So I would highly encourage you, if you are still interested in this and still want more information, I have a ton of info that I can share with you, and I will share that. I will give that to you guys afterwards. I do have a 1-sheeter. So if you would like that, I am happy to send that to you. It's a very large document, so I don't know if we want to post that on the meetup page, but I am happy if you will reach out to me, I will email it to you. It's a PDF. And so if you could tell me what your number is, I can email that out to you as well. And if you would like to do a team assessment for your team, I would love to be able to host that with you. Please let me know. We can set something up. I do have a website. It's called The Journey. Well, it's my blog right there, but I can give you my website as well. And we can, and it can show you, I'll put it in the chat, show you what all I offer for teams and for doing team building. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Aubrey. It was very insightful, very good. Thank you very much. There was one question from Munway. Would you be able to share the deck with us?
Yes,
Yep.
I can definitely do that.
Thank you. So let me just stop the recording, and then if anyone has any questions, they can ask.